Spain is taking a major step toward modernizing its criminal justice system by overhauling a law that has governed its legal procedures for more than 140 years. The Spanish government has announced plans to reform the 1882 criminal procedure law, transferring investigative powers from judges to prosecutors. This move marks one of the most significant judicial reforms in Spain's democratic history, aligning its system more closely with other European nations such as France, Italy, and Germany. Under the current legal framework, investigating judges, jueces de instrucción, oversee the preliminary phase of criminal cases, collecting evidence, authorizing searches, wiretaps, arrests, and indictments. This system, inherited from the 19th century, has long been criticized for being outdated and incompatible with modern democratic standards. Critics argue that it places too much power in the hands of judges and blurs the lines between investigation and adjudication. The proposed reform aims to assign criminal investigations to public prosecutors, who would lead the process from the outset, while judges would take on a more neutral and supervisory role, ensuring legality, protecting fundamental rights, and resolving disputes over evidence or procedure. The change is expected to streamline legal proceedings, reduce delays, and bring Spain in line with European Union standards. A push for modernization. The Spanish Ministry of Justice has described the reform as a historic modernization of criminal justice. Justice Minister Félix Bolaños stated that the current model, dating back to 1882, belongs to another era and needs replacement with a structure suited to today's democratic, constitutional system. The ministry argues that prosecutors, as representatives of the public interest, are better equipped to handle criminal investigations with both efficiency and accountability. The reform comes amid growing demand for transparency and faster legal proceedings. Many Spanish citizens and legal experts have voiced frustration over the lengthy and cumbersome investigations that often drag on for years, delaying justice for both victims and defendants. The government believes that empowering prosecutors could help solve this problem by reducing bureaucratic bottlenecks and clarifying the roles of each judicial actor. Judicial and political reactions. However, the proposal has sparked strong debate across Spain's political and legal communities. Supporters argue that the change is long overdue and would make the justice system more agile and aligned with European norms. They point out that Spain is one of the few remaining EU countries where judges still lead investigations, a model considered archaic and inconsistent with the separation of powers. Opponents, particularly some judicial associations, have raised concerns about potential risks to judicial independence. They warn that transferring investigative power to prosecutors, who operate under the authority of the Attorney General, could lead to political influence in sensitive cases. Spain's Attorney General is appointed by the government, which critics say may undermine public trust if prosecutors are seen as less impartial. The General Council of the Judiciary (CGPJ) has urged the government to ensure sufficient safeguards to preserve impartiality. Opposition parties, especially the Conservative People's Party (PP), have accused the ruling coalition of seeking greater political control over criminal investigations. European context. Spain's reform is part of a broader European trend. Most EU countries have long abandoned the judge-led investigation model in favor of prosecutor-led systems, which are considered more efficient and compatible with modern constitutional frameworks. The reform would also align Spain's justice system with the European Public Prosecutor's Office (EPO), which coordinates investigations into EU financial crimes and already operates under a prosecutor-led model. Legal experts note that adopting this system could improve Spain's collaboration with European judicial bodies and strengthen cross-border crime investigations. It would also fulfill several long-standing recommendations from international institutions, including the Council of Europe and the European Commission, which have encouraged Spain to modernize its criminal procedures. Implementation challenges. Despite broad recognition of the need for reform, the transition will not be easy. The government must carefully design a new framework that defines the powers of prosecutors, ensures judicial oversight, and protects the rights of defendants. The reform will require major institutional changes, training thousands of prosecutors, creating new protocols for evidence collection, and revising procedural codes. Legal professionals have warned that without sufficient resources and coordination, the reform could initially cause confusion and delays. The government has therefore announced that implementation will be gradual, with a multi-year transition plan allowing courts and prosecutors' offices to adapt. A step toward a new era. If successfully enacted, This reform could transform Spain's justice system into one that is faster, more transparent, and more consistent with democratic values. It would signify the end of a 19th-century judicial legacy and the beginning of a new phase in Spanish law, one centered on efficiency, fairness, and the protection of citizens' rights. Justice Minister Bolaños summarized the government's ambition. This reform will bring Spain into the 21st century. We are building a justice system that is not only more modern but also more just. The draft law is expected to be presented to Parliament later this year. If approved, Spain will finally close the chapter on a legal framework that has guided its criminal investigations since 1882, ushering in a new era of prosecutor-led justice.